Good morning. My name is Eric Geiger. Today I'm going to be presenting on schools and the limitations of the First Amendment. Now, before we get into what the First Amendment, how it affects schools, we need to understand what the First Amendment says. And it states, quote, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances." This basically means Congress can pass no law going against your freedom of religion, your religion, what you want to say or think, what your beliefs are, etc. However, these rights are limited in a time, place, and manner restrictions, because if your rights are used incorrectly, they can disrupt the population as a whole. For example, in the case Lee versus Wiseman, a rabbi was brought to a high school where Robert E. Lee is the principal for a graduation. Wiseman, who had a daughter at the school at that time, said, well, try to get a restraining order on the rabbi so that way his daughter did not have to go to the graduation. However, the restraining order did not go through, and the daughter still went. After that, during the graduation, the rabbi began to go through prayer, which Wiseman took to the court because he said it was against the school's rules against religion. Due to this, the court ruled that the rabbi should not be able to go through prayer ceremonies at a school because it affected the population as a whole at the school. The court said, quote, "Such conduct conflicts with settled rules prescribing prayer for students. The school's rules creates subtle and indirect coercion, forcing students to act in ways which establish a state religion." Basically meaning that the courts, or the schools rather, can't force upon a religion upon any student in that school, public to be more precise. Now, the counter to this is the Kinkers versus Des Moines case, where the Tinker brother and sisters wore armbands to protest the Vietnam War. When they did this, the principal heard it. Well, before this, the principal heard of this and said any student that was going to wear said armband would be asked to take them off, and if they refused, they would be suspended. The Tinker brother and sisters then wore the armbands, were asked to take them off, they refused, and were then suspended until New Year's. With the help of their family, they took it to the Supreme Court to sue, and the Supreme Court ruled in their favor, saying that the armbands weren't constitutional. Now, this may sound like the Supreme Court is ruling in favor of the citizen or the individual, but this is far from the truth. Upon further analysis, it can be discovered that the reason why the armbands weren't against the Constitution is because they didn't affect the population as a whole. They were protected by the freedom of speech for the individual and it wasn't affecting anyone else's freedoms. Overall, the First Amendment wants to protect the population over the individual. If the individual is limited slightly, but the population is overall benefited, then they are willing to proceed with this. This is also very vital to schools because if they did not have this rule, students would be able to express themselves in ways that could offend or insult other students at the campus. The solution to this problem is to inform the students overall. So on the first day of school, for example, they go, the First Amendment says this, this, and that, and you cannot say these things because it can hurt or affect other students around you, which also plays into time, place, and manner. Thank you. What are your questions?
Two questions I have for you. What evidence did you gather that you did not use, and then why didn't you use it?
The evidence I gathered that I didn't use was evidence about other people's specific problems with the First Amendment and how they felt that they weren't being fully represented in schools, which they felt to be a problem, which doesn't really affect me or help me because I was talking more about a population's perspective rather than an individual one.
Okay? Next question. If you have more time, what additional research would you conduct related to this issue?
I'd conduct more research on how the First Amendment in schools is being played into a more recent scenario. A lot of these cases weren't as recent as I would have liked, so if I could get more research done on present day topics, that would have been beneficial to me.
You're done, brief.